We are joined today by the man, the myth, the moderator, the main moderator in our Discord channel, our server, Nick Zanghi, also known as Zangster.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome, Nick.
Happy to be here.
So we're having you on. We have actually a lot to talk about. Why don't we start with how you got involved with Datastar in the first place?
Or it's a good story. It's a good one to start with. So I currently work at a company called 26 Technologies. Delaney, you might be familiar with this company.
I have heard of them in the past, yes.
So where I've gotten to, I've worked there for 5 years now, just kind of doing front end work for a couple different projects. But interestingly enough, the last project I found myself on was the one that Delaney used to work on. So I get to look at Delaney's old code. I work with his old teammates, and I get to basically try and fill the shoes that he's left at the company.
Are they very stinky shoes?
They're very stinky shoes.
Very stinky. They're
Very
boots, but yeah.
opinionated and very stinky shoes.
What does your day-to-day look like? So what are you actually using? What is your team actually doing and producing?
Sure. So we basically are an internal framework team. What that means is we accelerate projects. So if you have any kind of, let me give some more background to that. The 26 Technologies is a government contractor. We compete for contracts with the DARPA agency, which is, I'm not going to pretend like I know that right now, but it's basically advanced research projects. I think that's the middle. And we want to be competitive in that market. We want to move quickly. If there is some kind of ask or contract out there, we try and go get it. And we are a team of currently 4. It's a very small team. But some of the demos we've been able to pump out because of the stack is like, we can do a quick turnaround for a full stack solution in 2 weeks or 9 days, or, like less than a normal like 6 month to 1 year time frame because of the reduction in complexity.
So you're kind of an A team of
Pretty much, like, genuinely, people will just say, hey, can you guys do this? And we'll see what we could do. And we turn it around, we hand it off, and we get mixed results of like either people will know what to do with it and take it and go run with it or not. And as a company, like, we're still trying to figure out where we fit in, because it is difficult to be specifically framework instead of being, you built this thing, now maintain it, right? It's a different duality, but it's something that is important, because being able to move quickly in today's world is a superpower.
Do you ever finish a project and say, I love it when a plan comes together? That's an old A-team joke. Most people won't get that. So
that's older than he is, just to be very clear. Even the reboot is older than him. So,
I'll pretend like I know it.
Yeah, exactly. Then you're an old man. I can say that because I too am.
So you say you take a requirement, you build it in quick turnaround with a very precise team, and then you deliver it to the client, and then you kind of hand it off to them and say, you're on your own now? Or how does that part work? Because
that's pretty much it. Just the client is also internal teams to the company. So that's where the difference is of like a traditional business platform. It's like, we are an accelerator for the inside of to try and make things quicker. It's a very common pattern in the game development world. It's not a very common pattern in, I'll say the broader software world of things. But we're trying it. We've had really good success so far, just gathering interest. I'd love to tell you that our most popular tool isn't like an HR tool, but it is. So take that with what you will, or take it as you will. But it's been exciting just to be like getting requests and being able to, we could do that in, literally 2 weeks and have something up and running in a server somewhere.
Very
cool.
there's
a certain thing to it that's kind of interesting in that space. Before I left doing that kind of things, there's times where they'll have what's called system of record, where it has to stay up, it has to be there. And yet we were able to do stuff that was like 500 times faster, and like just that should not occur. And the whole thing is to make things simpler, and simple is fast. And it's been interesting to see Zangster go. We went from completely a front end guy to going through this whole journey, which is very similar to what you've have been going through as well. It's actually, it'll be more interesting. I want to hear how that's been, because when you came on, you were basically a Vue dev, and you're like, what the hell is all this other code? Why is this front end guy's stuff in Go of all things? Like, it doesn't make sense.
Well, here's what I always have to correct Delaney, because he puts me in the bucket of front end guy. But so I'm coming up on my 10th year, right? My first 3 years professionally was Java backend legacy, super legacy. And I was I was maintaining Spring applications. If you're familiar, if Java developers will know what I'm talking about. Java, MySQL database, and at the time it was like jQuery. And it was like, are we going to go with Angular JS 1.0 before they went to crazy, React, and that's it. Like, which one are we going to go with? And at that time, React was hot. It was changing the way web is done, for better or for worse, depending on who you talk to. And nobody ever wanted to do the front end. So I ended up, most of the time, it would be me, the main front end guy, but also needing to make changes to the back end. So a lot of Java work. When I started at 2.6, it was still Java. And then, so switching to the current project, I was brand new to Go, brand new to Vue, brand new to all of how Delaney structures his stuff. So I learned a lot just from reading even just that code of okay, Vue's not hard. You could pick that up easy if you've messed around with the SPA frameworks. Tailwind, right? Like picking up, it literally was like Delaney left his shit code. I picked it up, and then I learned the shit code. And then I was like, oh, okay. Actually, no, there's way better ways to do this. And, that was Datastar 0.18.4. I looked it up this morning, was like the first version I was told about from the old coworkers. They were like, hey, the guy that used to do this, he left and built his own thing to be really fast and really cool, really performant, fit our needs, our use cases. Why don't you go check it out? Luckily for me, I can read. So I looked into the source code of what the site was at that time, was able to parse out the information. And that was huge. And to see how it all connects was really diving into the to-do app and just be like, oh, this is cool. And then, as I always say this to people that ask me about data, I'm not afraid about real-time applications like I used to be, when I was trying to wrangle a WebSocket with React and handle the different states. It's like, oh my God, the boilerplate you'd have to write is a nightmare. And now you can just push, anyway, I'm getting off topic, but that's kind of where I've gotten to today, is that's the journey. It's like Java, lots of Java, SPA, and now throw it all in the trash.
So these days, does your tech stack look like Datastar on the front end, Go on the back end, and then Nats or SQLite? Or
it is completely that. It is, colloquially known as gonads. I have full sent that, and kind of most of my tooling has been built into that and around that, I'll say. Delaney makes me look like a superstar because of what I've learned from just reading his stuff. You can use ES build directly. You don't have to use, Vite to build your stuff. You don't even, 9 times out of 10, you don't even have to bundle your stuff. It's just a lot of really, things I haven't realized, being kind of where I was, of just heads down, learn the framework and, debug through the crap.
So there's many more things I want to talk about, but before we leave this topic, so how does your team stay so efficient and so effective? What would you boil that down to?
That's a really good question. So Northstar is the most slimmed down version that I could make, based off the old site code and my experience with Datastar, wanting to
Tell us
share.
what that is, just for everyone listening. What
Oh,
Northstar
so
is.
yeah, sorry. I always, I get in that mindset that people know what that is. So Northstar is a boilerplate template project that you could just start up and running with all of this stuff we're talking about right now of, Temple, Go backend. You can bring your own database. I always just throw in SQLite with Delaney's Toolbelt plugin, but you could use whatever you want. I leave it out on purpose. And then just some like stuff to help you get the web stuff up and running. So that's ES build program to like kind of bundle stuff for you. There's a downloader. It's just a nice to use tool that you can clone and you can destroy it. You can do whatever you want. But that was built based off of the version, I'll say 0.1 of the site of like, that was how it used to be. It had all that stuff. And I've just kept it up to date and kind of just have that available for people to check out and use. And it's changed over time, but not too much. But
And you have a bunch of examples in there too, right? So you have a version of the to-do app. So if people want to see, the back end for some of the examples that we have on the Datastar site, that is now the kind of go-to place.
Yep. If you are using Go and you're not checking that out, you definitely should. It's got pretty much all you would need to get up and running very quickly. I use it as a base for a lot of, stuff that I want to integrate with Nats too. Like I don't think I mentioned it, but Nats is first class citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And you just get it out of the box. So you just get clone and then make it yours. Do whatever you want to it.
So is Northstar something like that you are using at work, but a stripped down version of it? Like, or how would you
So
compare
here,
the two?
I'll give you the full history, right? So Delaney graciously releases the code public for everyone to see. I was like, this is great. If you can condense this, I love boilerplate. Like a lot of people will have their own opinions. I like being able to generate a project quickly that I can hack and like work on a new idea. And I think that comes from like basically what I do every day is research and development. So I need to be able, hey, I read this thing, let me go try it out, right? It's like I need to be able to I don't want to worry about writing, a server for the 800th time. Yeah, I'll say 800,000th time. I just want to have it
Yeah, it's
ready.
like having your own playground to just jump
Exactly.
into and start testing things out.
Exactly. So that stems from that. I take that, strip it down, make it nice and easy to parse, read, throw it up online. Take that, right? The core of it, strip out the back end, bring in a developer who's had 50, that 50 is not fair. I'll say 30 years of experience on top of my experience. And, caching, eat like really performant index queries, projectors, CQRS, batteries included out of the box, code generation through configuration by code. So if that landed correctly, all I'm starting to say is you can describe what you're trying to store and query in some configuration code, run a program, and you get a fully fleshed out backend. Routers, handling all the HTTP connections. From my perspective, at that point, all I need to do is write some temple code, glue it together, listen on some NAT subjects, and I have what I need. And it's been really, we're always trying to make it faster, and it's really helped move us to be able to hit targets in way quicker turnaround time.
So one question I would say to you is that, like, before you basically got thrown into this, you didn't know, you didn't know me at all, like in the company, not one bit. And how has it been going from oh, just some guy that left, here's your pile of crap, to like, you're actively a moderator now. There's a journey there. There's something else deeper there that like you locked into. And it's not just saying, hey, I learned some stuff from this guy's code. There's a difference between that and saying, I'm going to be a moderator. I'm going to hang out and I'm actually going to like make this place a better place. Like there's
Yeah.
something there that's a spark that I want to know what that is. Cause I like it. We need to know for other people, right? Like we've heard
Yeah.
about Ben and his journey through that, but nobody's heard about like why this project of all things, or why has this made such an impact, or why do you want to make an impact back? It's kind of my curiosity.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question and conversation starter. So I started with, React, a lot of spa world stuff. And I heard of things like HTMX on the side. I didn't really get it. I think nothing really clicked for me. I never experimented with it or anything like that. I was very like, I want to make my applications performant. I want to make sure my users aren't waiting when you click something. I just want it to be a very smooth experience. Um, I think what really genuinely seeing the push based reactions to things instead of the polling based reactions to things was really the eye opener. But once I swear to God, like I dove into the code and I was just seeing the things that you were using and putting together of like server sent events. There's something there that is really cool to use. Um, you know, using fetch, using the newer stuff that's out there, idiomorph, right? Like all of these things, once you read about them and then you put it together, it's like, oh, like there's something really cool here that not many people are paying attention to because they're too bogged down keeping up with their framework of the week. And I it was a it was an adjustment to how I wrote code, but it was a good developer experience to the point where I didn't have to write that much code, and I still had Temple to back up. Like if I needed any kind of like syntax stuff, like I'm not writing raw stuff. I still have the language server to kind of carry me through it. But it was just a really it kind of just changed how I thought about how to make web applications a lot. And why are we doing it always goes back to the complexity. Why are we doing these complex things when we don't need to? And that was really the biggest like aha moment of there is really a golden nugget here. And it's been refined since, right? Like that was it was a long time ago I had that moment, but it's only gotten better to use, which is really cool to see.
Yeah, it is crazy how much we've been cooking on 10 kilobytes of JavaScript of all things. Like
seriously, and it gets smaller every release.
Try to. Yeah, there's been some things that we've been fighting to make Rocket work, and it's trying to keep it under the 10 like dot x is a challenge for sure. So, yeah, no, I mean there's something to be said, but there's not that much different, at least from my like the SSE stuff is interesting, but that still doesn't really answer like why become a moderator, why like be on the Discord all day long. Like there's something else there beyond like I can make apps better, because you make apps better in React than in Angular, but you aren't a moderator for.
I guess I like half answered. I didn't really answer the moderation part. So
well, before you do though, sorry to interrupt, but before you do, I think there's a key thing there. That I'm not sure if you see, Delaney, or maybe you do, but maybe it's like so natural to you that you're like, yeah, what's the big deal? But it's like Datastar is composed of all these like different ideas that when you put them together, it creates what Datastar is. So Datastar is like the greater than the sum of its parts, right? Like, and those things that Nick listed off, SSE and a morphing strategy. Also, I would add signals into the mix. So all these things, you put them together, and then you get something extremely powerful, because they have been, even though most of those concepts are individual plugins that you can plug into Datastar or not, when they're all there available to you and they kind of just work together really seamlessly, that's kind of the golden nugget, right? That's what makes it what it is. And like in terms of learning experience, I've mentioned this many times, or unlearning experience, like this journey just for me goes on and on. Like I don't see any end in sight. Even now, I've mentioned recently on the podcast, I've been writing more and more Go code, and it really only makes sense to me because Datastar is in the picture. Like take Datastar out of the picture, I'm probably not writing Go code, because like it's kind of ugly, and it's like I don't have the tooling that I have in PHP. But with Datastar in the picture, suddenly like Go makes perfect sense, and I'm loving it because all of the problems that would be there with PHP, like trying to make long-lived connections work and trying not to go above the max memory and timeouts and all of these things, those problems just disappear. So suddenly, like, it's not just that Go is faster or more performant in PHP, it's that like it opens up this world of possibilities that I just find myself like running into walls with PHP, and I can jump some of those walls, right? But like, why jump the walls when the path is just clear for you? So, I think there's something there about like it's not just maybe to you, Delaney, like Datastar is just like this. Yeah, you just took these pieces and put them together, but I guess like no, there's something about the formula that you chose that really works.
It's finding the right pieces to put together. Like some people just never do that deep dive. I was guilty of that for a long time, most of my career, of just like, yeah, I know I could do, use less use effect or use less use state, and suddenly your thing is a lot faster. I wasn't trying to get into the weeds of why that is or what is going on. It's like you did the work of find the good, like the good code to use that gets good results, put it together, make it an easy to use like library. It was an aha moment of, oh, it doesn't have to be this difficult, of, I don't have to do all this complexity. I could just do this. I could talk about that all day. But if you want to switch to why I became a moderator, we could totally change gears there.
Yeah, let's do that. Because so we started at the server
Almost a year.
some point.
Almost a year ago.
You get a specific.
Almost a year ago.
Yeah, it was around
And
January, because basically, yeah, there's a whole blow up of like hatred in the HTMX thread, and then like they're like, maybe you should have your own server, and we're like, no,
yeah, let's do that.
but yes, it ended up being a very good thing because it is.
Yeah, so Zangster
very
was
different.
moderator from day one, as far as I remember. So and a very good one. Like you're just for anyone who's not aware, like Nick is extremely patient. He has more patience than Delaney and I put together, for sure. And you're also like doing stuff in the server that neither of us do. You're creating channels and you're thinking about like the welcome guide, and you're kind of like trying to guide people, through the learning path or the kind of joining path. So like how did you like, do you have experience in this?
No, I don't have experience in this, but I see the value in communities of like-minded people to push ideas further than like where they're at. That sounds like fluff, so I'm going to like peel it back for a second. There is value in not beginner friendly communities. So that was my original, like, oh, there's something here where we need to curate this, but we like there's and maybe we might disagree on this, but there is middle ground between hand holding, which you see a lot these days, of like it's all beginner friendly stuff, and there's, where is the more advanced material? Where is that? Where do those people go? You don't, when you only have 4 rules to follow, I think that you're able to get this community going that isn't so friendly, but also they are, like, we all care about fast code. We all care about performance stuff. So, I saw an opportunity because I was in the original HTMX Datastar channel of like, I think this is going to grow to something. I think this is going to go somewhere if it catches the attention of the right people, the people who care about performance. So that was more so, when the opportunity arose, I was like, yeah, let me do this. And I'm just, I'm like crazy with like my organization on a personal level. Like Delaney knows this all too well, but like I have crazy amounts of notes that I try and keep organized very nicely. So to me, the reflection of the community is like, I want to give it a little bit of like a, I'll say whimsical because that's the only word that's coming to mind. But like, it's just fun to kind of tap into everything's data on something or data dash something, right? Like it's a branding thing, it's marketing, but I just have fun with it. Really, it's just fun for me to kind of like be able to tap into the admin level tools and kind of just curate the right. I shouldn't say the right, but just be able to curate discussions, right? Be able to curate these deeper discussions than you get, on Hacker News or on Reddit, where if you don't agree with the groupthink, you're banned or you're deleted.
Yeah. In fact, I don't think we've ever actually. I've kicked like scammer people that are like putting in the crypto thing or something, but I don't think we've ever actually kicked or banned anyone ever.
Nope. Not only if they're scammers. Like we'll definitely delete things if it's not following the rules, which are there's so few rules. I mean, come on. But yeah, it's you come in and it's like just be an adult, have assume the best expectations. Like nobody's here to really tear you down. It's trying to make everyone write better code in a world where that's going to be more difficult every year. So, as more LLMs release that, anyway, that's a whole other topic.
Which is why we have rule number 4. And speaking of the rules, we did a podcast about rules, right? I think it was called Rules. And I just remember that I was in this same place. So I just remembered I had the cat here, and that was the thumbnail for the video. Because to get off a little bit off topic, I do all the editing of these podcasts, and I'm like, and then I, go through the whole process. I upload it, I write the description, add the show notes, and I'm like, okay, I want to finally hit publish. And then I'm like, oh, the thumbnail. And that, takes longer than all the previous work, but a good thumbnail is important. So that's why I remember this one.
It's crucial.
Yeah, we definitely, like, I like what you said about not trying to be a beginner. I think we're beginner friendly, but we're not like inviting beginners. We're not like, let us teach you about web development from, that's not what it's about. And we do get people coming in saying, I'm a complete noob in web development. Where do I start? And we, well, everybody should read the docs as a starting point, but the Datastar docs are not intended to train you as a web developer either. They very much assume that you will go read the spec, or you'll, do your own work and put your own effort into learning the basics of web development.
I mean, so here's where I think it's really, there is some value to, this is where I wanted to see Datastar a year ago, right? Is that I have like a personality that, like, the irony is that if I have like metrics on my side, you do not see opinions out of me. I'm like, okay, cool, let's measure it. And most people run away from that. So what's been interesting for me is the people that did not run away and have stayed around. But that doesn't mean that we haven't pushed out people that like do not like Delaney's way of doing things. Ben is a much more tame version of me, and yet there's things that, like, social things that he is as Delaney is, right? Like there are certain things where you're just like, I do not have a filter, I do not care, you can't hurt me, I will not deal with you. And then Nick comes in and actually is like an actual moderator that actually handles things, because like Ben's really good at dealing with the code side of it and dealing with like the organization of the project, but like organizing a community is very different than organizing a product, as in there's a lot more, it's like social proof involved in a community. So that's the thing that it's, to me, it's great because you see the value in the ideas, even if like you may completely disagree with me of how it is the way it is, but at the same time, Datastar wouldn't exist if I was not the way I am, right? Like there's a catch-22 to all this stuff, which is kind of interesting.
For sure. And we have some PRs currently under review that you're like, I don't see like, why would, like, I don't care what, and I'm like trying to like make the case for them, and we're getting them through. But yes, you're right. Like, and I feel like sometimes we're a little bit too close to the project, right? We're like
100%
in the code, and we're trying to get through the RC phase to get things stable, and dealing with people asking, like, it's a constant barrage of questions sometimes, and we're trying to respond responsibly, and we're trying to, like, like nudge people in the right direction. Sometimes that feels like we're pushing them, or like we're maybe too forceful, and maybe we are sometimes. So it's great to have someone like Nick there who's a little bit maybe at a distance, and you see the value in a community where we can like learn together and push each other forward.
The advantage that I have is I am not, I want to use the word, I don't want to use the word stress. That's not the right word. you guys are doing the hard work of pushing the library further, making sure the right PRs make it in. You need to be very strict about that. So when somebody who's excited and new to all of this comes in and is trying to like ask a beginner level question, it makes sense. You're not going to want to engage with that. Like I don't think, I think it's a very good dynamic. I really do. You need to have that kind of level of thinking about, I'm not wording this correctly, but basically, you guys are doing the hard work. You don't have the questions that are being asked have been asked 1,000 times, if not 5,000 times before. There needs to be the layers of separation. Otherwise, you just get exhausted. Like you guys, I seriously can't believe the amount of patience you guys have for dealing with some of this stuff and being able to go into the weeds with some people. Sometimes it's great. I think like, of course, there's people who you're like, oh my God, get out of here. But they end up 9 times out of 10, they go to the right place, they go to the help channel, and somebody else will jump in. And that I think is really cool too. Like just to kind of talk about the whole dynamic of like everybody has a role to play. So I think it's good. I think overall
it has been interesting that I basically have sequestered myself that once someone puts something in help, unless it's a very specific like technical thing, I stay out of it. I think that's actually been good for the community a lot. Is that it's like, look, we have enough people around, because most of the time it actually comes down to the templating or to the language or to some other thing of like, hey, it's not really about Datastar, and that's the beauty and the curse about Datastar is almost never is about Datastar nowadays. There was an interesting PR that came up today that actually is about Datastar, but it's weird. Those don't happen very often nowadays because the RC has gone on for a long time. Like it's us just like making sure we have the right defaults and stuff, right? So yeah, it's been interesting to see the dynamics. Also, it's really funny. Like I know that when I'm about to go to sleep, Europe wakes up and like either there's nothing going on or there's like 4,000 messages. Like
Yes,
it's pretty funny.
we've had days where it's like there was a dumpster fire overnight, and we get up at and this is what we have to now deal with, and this is
but I do
300
like your
messages
push to
to
move
read
everything
through.
to threads and stuff has been like a really good change.
Yeah.
Like we're getting better about that. So like we do appreciate that work.
It's growing pains, right? Like a lot of it is just, we have a lot of members. I think we're almost at 2,000 people, which is crazy to think about, but
Yeah.
it just helps to kind of organize, the discussions into a digestible manner instead of 200 plus new messages in general.
Yeah. No, it's been incredibly helpful because they also get lost. That's another thing, right? Like the help channel is set up in a way that you ask a question and that is its own thread for anybody who's unfamiliar with it. And those threads are now searchable and kind of self-contained. So like the organizational work that you've put into the Discord server has been huge, including like we have a showcase. Like things are well structured. It's a really well structured, well thought through. And one of the most recent things that you added was a learn channel, where you're posting well, tell us about that.
Sure. So I will say just real quick, like it took iterations to get to where we're at. It was not like it was a little disorganized to start and then it kind of took shape, but I do like the latest way it is. So the learn channel, it started with the same questions being asked frequently, or I would get direct messages, hey, how XYZ question, where I'm like, you know what? It would be good if there was a central place where somebody could go in the Discord and find information on a topic that's mentioned, that you're using an acronym, you use SSE. Somebody that's totally new to this would be like, I don't know what that stands for. So you could just open up that channel. You could look at the posts in there. You could search them. They're all tagged, and find topics related to, but not directly necessary to use Datastar. It's like, how can you use Datastar to its max proficiency? Well, you have to know a lot of other stuff because it's a small part of the whole picture. It just unlocks, anyway, I could talk about that forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's interesting is that it's not discussion based, right? You're
Right.
posting topics with links to resources that you think are relevant to Datastar. And this was kind of, we talked about, I think on the last podcast, how people very often ask, what is the Datastar way of doing this thing? I woke up the following Sunday and I was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it today. And I wrote what became the Tao of Datastar, which is kind of like, here are the core principles that we think you should follow if you want, apps that are performant, maintainable, and scalable. Follow them or don't at your own peril, but these are the recommendations. And it's not a guide that like walks you through how to. It's kind of like a set of principles, I guess, and that's great because I think now we can point people to that. It doesn't answer all of their questions, but most of the topics listed there have a link that you can go off and start reading. And that's what we want. We want people to join this learning journey that we're all on. And if we can just give them pointers, like I feel like the Tao is kind of a map that you can like visit different points and come back and you've learned something new, and then you put the pieces together and Datastar makes much more sense at that point.
The Learn channel came about the same exact way. I woke up, was like, you know what? It would be useful to have this. I've gotten enough requests for it. Let me just full send it. And those that know me, that work with me professionally, know that I collect links. Like I am the link collector. I'm a link gremlin. So literally most of those are just from my notes of like,
Right.
here's what I've learned and have had success with. Let me just share with everybody, because why not? I have them ready to go. Delaney has said, most of this comes from Delaney too. Like he mentions things like, let me go do a deep dive. And I kept it. So here's, this might be controversial. Maybe not. I kept it to where only I can post because I don't want other people to crap it up. Like that's genuinely it. You can leave comments. You can share what you've learned. I don't want to moderate it. I'm just like, here, I know this works. Go check it out. If you want to use it, fine. If not, whatever. But I think going back to what you said about being able to share a link is like really powerful, right? Just, hey, you're curious about view transitions. Well, go check out here and go check out here. We have it in the Discord. You could do it at your own pace. Essentially, it's a marathon. It's always a marathon. It's not a sprint. Like that's the most important thing with a learning journey is like, there is a lot to learn. Take your time, click one by one, take your time. But the goal with it is just to have it readily available for the newbies. It's friendly enough, but not totally like handholdy.
Well, and the thing is, we already have kind of a list. Someone's already worked on a list of like everything that is Datastar, and having a more curated, like, hey, you have to get at least past Zangster to have it on this list is a good litmus test in my mind, because you're being thoughtful about it. Like, there's curation is time consuming, even if it's just linking stuff, right? Like this is just one of those kinds of things where I think there's real value in keeping that. People have to talk to you before you say, hey, yeah, I'm going to link this in, because it may not actually be that valuable, or maybe just about this language as opposed to what are the specs, what is the ideas of data-oriented programming versus data-oriented design, or like what is secure? Like all these things are valuable, but also finding things that don't lead people on weird journeys it takes work, man.
Yeah, I try and be a fairly, sane. I'll say sane learning czar. Where if you want to learn a topic, just DM me. I'll see if I have links ready to go and I'll add it. And that most of this, like some of the CSS stuff, has been from people reaching out. Hey, I want to learn more about it. Okay, well, it's good to know semantic CSS. What you could do today. So that's where some of these things come from. It's just it's like you said, it's a barrier, right? It's like a sane membrane barrier of knowledge.
Yeah, and I see people already like saying, "Oh, you could add this to the docs," and maybe we could at some point. I'm kind of wary as protector of the docs. I'm kind of wary of like just adding more stuff to the docs, because people anyway barely read the docs, and if the docs just get longer, like is that going to be more appealing to you? Yeah. So, but something like this, like a curated list of links that that can really keep somebody on the learning journey, as opposed to going off in all sorts of weird directions. could be good at some point. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the most valid criticism I've heard is it's hard to access, meaning if you're not in the Discord, you don't get access to
Yeah.
this channel. But that's also, I don't know how to really handle that, because then where do you could, of course, host this somewhere, right? Then you got to pay, like, that becomes annoying to maintain. You can make a repo, but that's also annoying to maintain. So
Well, no, I will
there's,
say that at least for me, there's like I've been part of enough stuff and been around long enough that I've been on the BBSs and the like. Even a GitHub issue tracker is so asynchronous that you're like, when will I ever hear back from anyone? Like, even if it's a few minutes, is the asynchronous of it that is hard. And Discord really is that kind of like someone will get out of 2,000 people, someone will get back to you with the core, 20 or 100 people that are on all the time. There's something valuable about that. And even when it comes to things like learning, which you're like, well, but that's an offline topic. Yeah, but if I do an @ to somebody, I'm going to get a response much faster than I would in a more static approach. So the real timeness, ironically, is kind of a Datastar centric thing in that, like, yeah, having direct access to things is kind of our bag. So like, I don't see another process where it would work better unless we basically ran our own version of our own Discord thing that Datastar was written in or something. Like, but the ideas of it, I don't think you could just host it somewhere and say, okay, cool, done. It would be interesting if there was a Daystar version of like Obsidian or something where you could see live versions of it and see everyone, almost like a Dark Souls thing where people could leave their little notes along the way to like send you on a journey, that kind of thing. Like, but again, those are much more long-term, bigger community kind of things. Like, I think what we have now is really solid.
I've been meaning to ask. So I think that, like, having a Datastar book, like Ian, I think was his
Yeah.
name, was working on, would be a very cool thing to have. But I understand, like, that's not something for you guys to work on. That's something for the community to build. And I would love to see something like that get released, just as another resource that is maybe accessible through the GitHub, documentate whatever I never use
I,
the GitHub sites. So
I don't know if we've actually bounced this idea around Delaney, but I think it is probably something we should write or Delaney should write, and I help only because I mean, anybody could write it, but they would have to do deep dives on all of these topics and understand Datastar inside out to write a book about Datastar, right? Like,
yeah,
if
I mean,
that's
I've definitely
what the
thought
book
about it
is
because the one thing in fact, I talked to Carson a while ago, like a couple of years ago at this point, probably, that I was considering just taking Hypermedia Systems because it's an open source book and literally forking everything after chapter 1 or the first couple chapters. He didn't seem very amenable to that, even though it technically could happen. So I think the approach that I would do, because I have thought about it, and of course, like, I have enough projects that it is kind of harder to say, oh yeah, go write a book. But I would personally want to do a thing of like, here is a project. In fact, there was a Kanban thing that came up not too long ago, and here's how most people do it. Okay, and here's how someone coming from, like, they didn't know really do it. They just took it and made it use Datastar. Cool. And then here's my approach, which is a very data oriented, like, we're going to go to a different degree. And that might be an interesting book in that it's not just like, here's a thing using Datastar, but then here's what I think actually is the important part, which is not Datastar. So the irony is the first part of the book, like, HTMX comes up at the end of Hypermedia Systems in some degree. And in my world, that comes up first because it's the least important part of it. You're like, okay, here you get stuff on screen. This is cool. Okay, now let's make it literally 100 times faster. Like, that's what my book would be like. I just don't know if there's enough people to make that actually something they want to read, because it'd be mostly about architecting systems and actually not just architect, but actually building out systems and refining them and doing flame graphs and saying, okay, here's where we're spending time. Here's where memory. So I don't know if that really would go over as well, because it's not a, like, here's a Datastar tutorial. It's a, like, yeah, Datastar gets you to the end goal, which is fast real-time systems.
well, it's a bit like the conference. Yes, we're putting on the conference, and yet we're calling it DataConf because it's so much more than Datastar. It's similarly with a book, you would end up talking about architecting systems and data oriented design in a Datastar book. So I don't know, like, what form or shape that should take just yet.
Yeah, it's a hard question because even when we talk about the data conf and what, like, I was going to give a talk, but it's most likely going to be on like data oriented for web devs. Like, what is data, like mechanical sympathy for web devs? What does that even mean? That's the kind of questions I'm interested in, and it has like very little to do with Datastar nowadays. Like, there's nothing interesting about Datastar, which is good. That's what you want.
So let's move on to something else, because I know that you've been working with Rocket a bit, and you mentioned Stellar, that you're excited about that. You mentioned a starter kit too. So tell us, what are you excited about?
Yeah, that's a good segue. So I think my experience with Rocket, I didn't have anything to really make my web component building go faster until like this was released. I've been using Lit. That was the recommendation, and it worked, right? It is a great framework for building web components. You get a lot out of the box. Problem is, it's a lot of boilerplate, like, and you don't get any kind of, I guess,
I just want to
benefit.
remind you, you said you love boilerplate. So
I know.
clarify.
So boilerplate that you have to write, like, um, there's what I get with Rocket is just literally less code. Like there's so much nicety out of the box where I'm like, I don't have to think about it, and I could just add some little validation parameters into my stuff, and I'm good to go. Um, the thing that sucks right now is I don't have the license at work, so it's kind of like I use it just to kind of mess around like on my local machine because I have the solo license, but it's it definitely speeds up the time that it would take to write any kind of the web components that I normally have to do at work.
Yeah.
So
I've been using it to build some little web components, and I just find it so nice to have like a Datastar feel to the web components, right? You're still using signals, you're still doing stuff declaratively. Um, and most of the time, I'm not doing anything crazy, right? Like I just want, I don't know, I just want toggles and, an input field that works a certain way that, like, I don't know, converts a number into a currency or a phone number or something like that. So it's the minimal amount of JavaScript. I don't want to write all that boilerplate that you talk about that you either would with Lit, or if you do it with a native web component, you just ends up being very long for no apparent reason. Um, Rocket is complex though. Like we have a couple of bugs that we're aware of, we need to address. Um, and I've said it to Delaney, like it feels like it would be so much easier if this was just part of Datastar. But you've been like adamant that no, this should be a plugin, and I agree. But at the same time, we're like, okay, we're kind of fighting against what Datastar wants to do, because we have to like take your source, turn it into something that Datastar then understands, and it's just a bit of a beast, if we're honest, yeah. But we're working through it, and I think it's coming along really well. Like I really like the API. What I said to Nick earlier is that I feel like a lot of the complexity is around scope signals. Like I wonder if we got rid of that, if like all of that, not, a ton of complexity would go away, but would a
Ton
ton
of the
of value
features go
also
away
go?
too. Like the value of, like, at least for me, is where people always say that like Datastar needs this or Datastar needs that, and it's like, no, Datastar needs plugins, and you need to like live in that world. And scope signals are just complicated. And remember, like, I don't know, it was 4 months ago or something like that, we tried to put scope signals in. It's like, okay, this is our last thing. And I got into the weeds, and I'm like, there's like 6 ways to do this. And if you choose wrong, you are screwed forever. Right. So the idea that Rocket could be wrong and still Datastar is okay, I'm very adamant about that, even though it makes my life way harder. And it's one of those things of, it is just a complicated beast. And I wish JavaScript was a Lisp, and I wish we had AST access and all the things that would make this so much easier, but we don't. So it's a lot of string manipulation. It's a lot of rewriting. It's a lot of like deciding between regex and not. And like, one thing that's been interesting in the Discord lately is I think people do not realize that Datastar is not its own language. It is just some regex place finds on top of like regular JavaScript. Like it's close to JavaScript as it can be while still allowing for like reactivity in ways that weren't built in and stuff like that. So it is interesting when people are like, well, of course, you have your own language. I'm like, this is not a language. This is like find, replace to be fast. Like, so we are limited in a lot of ways. Before we go, I do want to talk about something that might change some of that for the good. But man, it's just a hard problem. And you're going to see me push back on that because if Rocket was wrong, I don't want Datastar to not be V1. Like that's kind of that's a very strong opinion. And also, what if someone comes along and actually makes a much better version of Rocket? Like makes something that's like that and still uses Datastar. I want that. Like I don't want that to go away because we have something built in. And that's the thing I push back on every single push back on Alpine, I push back on HTMX, I push back on all these guys because they have extensions, but they don't have any way to take things away.
Right.
And I think
I'm specifically referring to scoped signals, but yes, scoped signals only make sense when you have Rocket.
Where does the scope go? What defines the scope? Like, how does it go away? When does it go away? Can you have things shared? No, there's no one answer there, unfortunately. It's opinionated in a way that it's funny. People people say I'm very, very opinionated, and that's probably true, but I try to be very unopinionated with my core stuff. Like I want to be able to be wrong and rip that out and still have the same ideas. So
just wanted to
I see Rocket as my thing also is like Rocket, just like a lot of the other things. These are temporary things to get around the issues of the browser. If some way that you had reactive expression or you had something around it, or you could do declarative web components, a lot of the stuff that's Rocket's complicated goes away. So, I hope it goes away. I hope like browsers get better. So,
right. The other thing, Nick, you mentioned is CSS, and you've learned a lot about CSS. So, what's your approach there?
That's a good point. So I'm excited for Stellar, right? And the reason being, I, like many other JS developers, kind of let CSS just fall to the wayside as you kind of just write the minimal amount to make it work and center some things on a page or whatever. And I'm realizing that's been a mistake because CSS is good. It has a lot of really nice things in today's version across browsers that let you reduce the scope of JS to make things move on the screen, right? Like do all this stuff. And I still do use Tailwind professionally, but on in most of my personal projects, I don't even really reach for it anymore. And it's more about like whose CSS do you want to align with, and why I'm excited about Stellar is not only because it is a config driven where you can change it, but also still talk the same language. What I've seen from Delaney's demos is you can just drop images, right? And get a perfect palette or multiple perfect palettes. And I have not seen that anywhere. Which is for UI UX guys, right? Or I'll say people, dropping like kind of type images that you would need to use as a developer to kind of make the right color scheme fit. That's a godsend. You just take that, drop it here. Now I have the perfect color palette to use, and very excited for that. I've on a personal level, I've been trying to just really deep dive some CSS courses. I picked up some over Black Friday. Shout out Josh Como. I love his stuff. As I often post in the Discord, but just it's again, I didn't realize how good CSS has gotten. I didn't realize how good the browser has gotten. HTML, JS, there's, because of having my head down sometimes and trying to just learn and keep up with a framework, I missed out on some stuff. And that's why I'm kind of peeling back. Like I'm not using Tailwind. I'm not using those kind of type, I'll say React, not using frameworks anymore. It's just, I know this will work. Let me do it and let me see how far I can push it. And we talk about it a lot, is like, if you start from first principles, you can see why things are done. You can get to a point where you get burned and you learn this stuff and why it's implemented this way. And long story short, that is why I'm excited about Stellar. Is just another tool to check out and make my life easier.
One thing that a few weeks ago or maybe a month ago, you had reached out and you're like, hey, because he is literally left with some of my old projects, and he's like, there's this math.ts file that's full of with like all these functions and pinner curves and like easings and using tau instead of pi and stuff. Like, I now know why that exists because he's been like working through the stuff now. It's pretty funny. He's like, this is stupid. Why do you have this thing? And now he's like, okay, I'm gonna copy paste this directly.
He's totally exposing me, but he's so right, because literally I saw that file. I was like, what is this? Like, I know the math API. And then as I'm learning animation stuff through, the courses I've taken, or I'm learning CSS, I'm like, oh, God damn it. Like, again, he's ahead of, the curve. And the most recent example is the Julianne date time stuff. Because I would see that, I'd be like, what? Why are we doing this?
Because it's right.
Now, yeah, so.
It is funny because the thing is that this is all just hard-earned knowledge, right? Like, it sucks, and don't want other people to go through it. It's weird because don't want people to handhold. You don't want to handhold people, but you also don't want them to go down. Like, you want to have a reason to say, hey, this is the best. Start here, and if you find better, please let me know, right? Like, that's kind of the guide. And for those that don't know, dates, if you're doing SQLite, there's basically 4 data types. There's int64, float64, text, and binary. And that's it. So if you're doing dates or times, you can do them as text, and they're these big long things that are actually really slow, or you can do it by the seconds, since Unix seconds, or you can use Julian dates, which is a float 64 version that actually gets down into the microsecond level, that's used for astronomical stuff. So knowing me, of course, I'll do the thing that's fast, and you shouldn't be comparing dates exactly against each other anyway. So it's one of those things of like, you're trying to sort, and they will sort correctly. You won't be able to do direct comparisons, if that makes sense. So like, but also,
most people are like, seconds are fine for timestamps, right? Delaney's like, nope,
not if you're doing satellites or other things.
I was going to say, try and Google that. Try and ask any kind of LLM that. You literally will not get that answer, and you wouldn't know that unless you are deep.
The thing is that
experience and retrospect is extremely valuable here.
Yeah. I mean, there's times where I know, like, there's times when, especially in military applications, Zangster would tell you, like, you are dealing with fast moving things and things in different like places, and like having it down to that level matters. Like, it truly, truly matters, and down to the second doesn't matter. So, and then also the thing is, there are times where that's not even good enough, and you need 12 byte time to get down to the nanosecond. So, like, there's defaults to this, but yeah, it's one of those things where this has kind of been the project for me, at least, of like paying forward some of this stuff, because I learned this from a lot of other smart people. I didn't like, it's not like I came up with almost any of this. Is that like, oh, I looked at like Dr. Hip, the guy who did SQLite, added Julian. Why did he add Julian? And then getting into the weeds of their forums and learning from that and trying to extract that into like, okay, I'm going to start here. If your thing's faster, please let me know. Right. Like, so.
Speaking of precision time, you had something you wanted to show us, Delaney.
I do. So I have
nailed it.
Very good segue. So I told them that we don't really do a lot. I don't do a lot of gifts, or I don't have a lot of like old man stuff where people have like buy Rolexes and all these kinds of things. But I did like suddenly get into a YouTube frenzy of watching watch videos. Like, I got deep into like, I know more about watches than I would want to admit. But the reason why I do have a collection of slide rules, because my grandfather was an engineer. I have his slide rules. I have ones from all of, like, so I have a lot of these old like mechanical things, and some watches like Flightmaster or avionic watches have slide rules built into them. So I wanted to put some in my collection, but I found a gift that I gave myself. So yes, like my wife gave this to me. She just doesn't know it yet. Is I got this watch, and this is like the perfect analogy for Datastar for me. And the reason why is made out of the same materials that you would see like in the Rolexes and all that stuff, like same basic ideas. But instead of like, for example, most Rolex or dive watches, you'll be in the 15 seconds per month range is a well set up watch. This watch is set up to be accurate to 1 second every 100,000 years. And you're like, well, how does it do that? And it actually listens to the atomic radios transmissions and actually does an atomic clock like sync every day. So it's actually accurate to the thing. It's also solar powered, so that you have to change. It does have it has a quartz battery, but you change it every like 15 to 20 years. It runs on the sun. It's accurate to everything. It automatically syncs with everything. Has a chronograph down to hundredths of a second. Does all this stuff, and it was like 100th of what you would spend on like an AP Oak or something like that. So it felt like a Datastar thing because it's not about prestige. It's not about being like, oh, this is cool because other people think it's cool. I think it's an amazing watch just because it does exactly what it's meant to do, and it's super tiny, and it works great, and it still has a slide rule. So I don't know.
A precision tool that nobody's heard of. Sounds like Datastar.
Yeah, and it's funny because, like, ironically, this one's from Citizen, but like they've been around longer than most of the other watch companies, and yet they're just not. They make good quality things that are not, like going for the luxury market, and so people like I don't know get mad about that. Like it's such an interesting world that we live in. It's all based off of fashion, so it felt very Datastar-y to me, which is pretty funny.
One of the things I had written down, Nick, that you mentioned is use signals minimally. So what's your approach there? Like, or what's your approach to using Datastar? Let's put it that way.
So let's go back a year when I first started. Everything was a signal, and that's a mistake, right? Because I was in the mindset of I'm used to working with JSON. This looks like JSON. I could just throw it all in a signal and I could just keep going the way I was going. And that of course burned me at a point where I was like doing way too much and I was not I kind of just realized that it's not that I realized the performance of my thing was breaking. Like literally I was getting like weird flashes because of just things that it was just like a lot of mistakes, right? That caused my stuff to not work. So I went back to the drawing board, had a lot of help through the Discord of just reading how other people do stuff. I only reach for them now with user input. Like that is it. If a checkbox needs to be clicked, and if I don't even use them for modals, I don't use them for accordions unless there's cross thing like interactions happening. I try and just delegate to the browser as much as possible, just using attributes to reduce the scope of signals. And it's purely to just reduce the amount of stuff I have to worry about. Like if I can just have, something open and I don't have to think about it, or I can set that interaction somewhere else and not have to worry about managing the signals, my life becomes easier. I'm only focused on sending HTML the way I need to. I don't need to focus. Like it's kind of laziness, but it's also just a state of it makes me feel more confident in what's being written to make interactions happen without the need for them. But when I do need them, it's nice to have them there. And that is a good pattern. That is a pattern I follow. I think it's great that it's in the Tao of Datastar. Like there is a Datastar way. You have to learn it kind of the hard way sometimes. And that's just one of my personal experiences is like, if I'm working with someone and I'm like, you're trying to use Datastar, like at my company, I will say, try to write it without signals first. Just see how far you can get. 9 times out of 10, I'll even say like 9.5 times out of 10, you will be able to do what you're trying to do without them. But
And
when
it'll
you
be less
need
code.
them, yes.
Yeah.
But when you need them, it's great that they're there because then you can fill that gap.
Yeah. It's a difficult question to answer when people ask, why should I use less signals, right? Like developer sees shiny tool, developer uses shiny tool, right? Like but how do you explain that? It's difficult. Yes, you have to either be burnt by it or have gone down that path only to realize now I'm in signal soup, or now my app is glitchy or not performing the way it should. So yeah, it is in the Tao to use, as few signals as absolutely possible. And what you're saying makes sense. Like, you still want to keep it declarative, and you want to, at the same time, you want to focus on locality of behavior. So there are times where if you're setting a signal and the effect of that signal happens somewhere else, when it's not necessary, when you could just say there, no, on click, show modal, that's all I want you to do. There's no need for a signal in that situation, right?
Yep. There's specifically an interaction I'm thinking of right now that actually is a really good use case. And there might be opinions on it, maybe not. So dashboard, like picture this in your heads, right? Dashboard on the left-hand side, there's a table of, I'll say, like cities of the US, right? On the right, you have a map. Well, when you're scrolling over here and you want the map to move around, kind of hard to do that without the usage of signals. And that was like the one use case where I was like, yeah, okay, this makes it a lot easier because I can change a value over here affected by value over here. Okay. Where you don't use signals, and like one place that I was doing it early on was to show events on a calendar. And Delaney knows about my calendar, but I was trying to stuff all of the data for the events I'm showing on the screen into signals when it was 10 times easier to just blast the calendar with new HTML at a container. And that was like, oh God, like I'm using signals and I shouldn't be. And that's kind of the scenarios, at least for me, that I bring up when I'm trying to explain to someone, like, here's the line is like interactions, you might want to, but trying to visualize or display something, don't.
Right. That sounds very much like the SPA mindset applied to Datastar. Just use signals everywhere and then use the front end to manipulate the DOM rather than, hey, I have a templating language on the back end. Let's set up the DOM the way it's supposed to be and send it down. Let Datastar take care of the rest.
Exactly.
Yeah,
right.
hypermedia is definitely a different beast for most people. Like it really is. You think it's like, well, it's just HTML with the difference, but it really is you're just skipping steps. And once you can learn to skip the steps seem crazy, which makes it seem like you're like being like, what are you doing, idiot? Like it feels like you're being mean when you're just like, why are you doing all these extra steps? So it is pretty funny that you help people on this journey that you went through yourself. Like it's
That's the beauty of the open source stuff. Like that's why I wanted to be like doing a real throwback here. That's why I wanted to be a moderator, is like just giving back the knowledge. I know enough to know you are giving really good knowledge to the community. I know enough to see Ben contributing to this community. Like it's being able to see that takes time, but sharing it, I think, is like literally the beauty of open source software. Like I love that aspect. It's like it's free knowledge, but you have to go grab it, and you to see the value in it, you need to be steeped in it. And it's just cool. It's like it's like ants colonies, like all that stuff. It's really cool to just see it all come together.
So what do you want to see going forward for the Discord? Like where like what needs to be improved, or like when do I get kicked and banned? That's what I want to know. And when does my ban come in? It hasn't dropped yet.
That's not going to happen. I think honestly, I like how smooth it's been going. I have like it's been very since the last reorganization. I don't know if there might be some listeners who've been here for a while where I kind of went a little crazy with the data naming. I really like this latest. I'm looking at it right now. This latest setup. I do like community events. Like I don't know, you guys have seen I set up the Advent of Code channel
Yeah.
just so people could share. It's fun to come together as a community.
It's been wonderful. And in fact, the one that made me laugh because everyone was showing just the regular Advent of Code, because again, it's about data and not about Datastar so much. But one person put the first day of Advent Code in a Datastar button, like a data on click. The entire Advent of Code was in a Datastar button, and I was like, okay, that's pretty dope. Like I tweeted about that, which is pretty funny.
That is all. Like that's what I love, right? And I want to foster that a little bit more. So we'll see. I know there's other like events throughout the year that I've seen, and I think I'll probably keep that in mind. But
it's
always
a
open
good
to suggestions.
The one thing that would be good is like, because we have the merch thing and we have the thing, we could actually throw up some, like put some merch as like rewards kind of thing for people that actually get involved with that stuff.
That's a
that would actually be that should be something we should do with like we have the nonprofit for a reason, right? And it's to promote this stuff. So like being able to send off merch to the top ones, yeah, I think that's a great, make that happen. I like how I just go, make that happen, because I'm terrible at this stuff. So yes.
Idea, blah, 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 blah. Do it, Zangster. Yeah.
Right.
Hey, I get enough ideas from other people that I have, that gets like, everyone gets nerd sniped at some degree. It's just where you decide to draw the line, right? Like,
so true.
Yeah. We get asked a lot, not a lot, sometimes, for a voice channel. I think a voice channel is impossible to moderate. I think we should never do
What's
it.
help me here, because as dumb old guy, what is the voice like? What's the issue with the voice channel other than like letting people letting me
The
yell at people
issue,
directly without like
the
autocorrect?
a voice channel is kind of like having a room in your house where you say, kids, whatever you do in there, you can kill each other. I won't know about it, so I don't care. So like, there's no
Again,
way to
I'm not
see.
seeing the issue here. What's the issue here?
There's no benefit. How about that? Show me
Okay.
the benefit, and then I'll think about it. But
We can
otherwise,
only
it's
handle
just
one of those types of channels, and that's the LLM mind prison channel. We can't have more than that.
Uh, yeah, I
Only
guess
one
my thing is I do think there's something, and this might be again maybe we're just adding on layers that we don't need, but again we're almost at 2,000 people. It may make sense to have um an office hoursy kind of thing of like, hey, the devs care. Like if you have something like if like even the discussion about the one PR about like fetch interacting with signals and all that, like it is not bad for everyone to be able to have like, okay, let's have a discussion about this on like at this time of this day kind of thing. I think there's something we might be getting to the point where that might actually be a time saver so that we don't go 200 uh, threads deep on a subject. And it's just like, maybe.
I'm skeptical, only
Okay.
because I don't want people's mind farts, having to sit there listening to their thoughts rather than like give me a well thought through argument and then we'll discuss that. Maybe that's the trade-off. But
I'm
I
more
think I was gonna say that a meetup like we had a month or two ago
Well,
would
that's kind of what
be
I meant by the office hours to some degree, but having it like if there's
okay.
any kind of, but having more focused discussion of like, hey, this is a good thing. We need to like. The problem is with a lot of those discussions, you can see that people very easily they don't get the personalities of people, and they like what's written does not match their thing. And it's like, cool, let's have a discussion with all of us in a room, kind of thing. There's something about that
Yeah.
that we might be at that point where because people will think that there's anger there where there's not. I'm just like very short sentence misspell sentences, right? Like there's something, there could be something there. That's all I'm saying.
Did you want to say something, Nick? I cut you
Yeah,
off.
I was just gonna say, like, my concern is that it is a time sink for like for some people. It's you can get because it's not async in nature. You could spend too much time there. Like number one, but number two, like I'm worried about like weird crap happening in the voice channel that then reflects real badly on us just because we weren't there to moderate it. And maybe, I mean, it could just be like my paranoia about online safety, but you hear about stuff like that happens on Roblox, right? If you're familiar with that game, and I'm like, I don't even want to open up the door to anything weird like that happening here. Not that we have a community that I would think that would happen, but you never know.
There's some people
I
that try to
do
make it that.
think I do think having scheduled meetups, like I thought the last one that Benny set up was fantastic. I think that could be really beneficial. And um, the only pushback on the office hours I'll say is like, how's that different than the help channel? Is it because you don't have it muted?
No, it's more that I'm talking about having a video, like having like a meet that people like, hey, there's a meet happening here, having office hours to talk to the team and say like, hey, is there anything that people want to actively like? If I've ignored a PR for like, Ben has a direct line to me, but like if there's other things that we haven't discussed or I haven't thought it through, because if something doesn't affect me, I'm not going to have a lot of opinions about it. Like, so it's more to hear about from other people, and also like this is like people see our faces quite a bit, but it'd be good to see other people. Like no one knew what you look like. There's you can see the intent in people better, like with a visual medium to some degree. So that's where like I think you're probably right. The voice channel is bad, but having a video thing, there's something different about it, at least in my purview.
I
Yeah,
just
if it's an organized thing and there's a topic and
Yeah.
there's like if responsible people are there, but just having a channel where anybody can enter and we have no visibility into what's going on there, I think is a bad idea.
I think
I
like
see
for
your
me,
point.
I'm like, why not just go to Google Meet, right? Or why not? Like, I don't know, like just drop a link for a meet now and kind of
Yeah.
kind of coordinate it. But I do see the advantage of being able to just do it in the Discord. I don't I don't know what the right answer is. What I will say is go check out the meta channel if you want to discuss it.
We have a meta channel. That's news
I
to me.
really must have not announced it correctly. We have a meta channel to discuss things about the Discord. Go make a thread, or somebody made a thread so we could discuss it.
I do love that Ben basically tries to stay out of Discord as much as possible, unless I do the @Ben and then the Ben Gopher GIF.
The Ben Gopher.
That's the only way.
Ben Gopher's hilarious.
Yeah, every single time I do it. I do it just because I know Ben will laugh every time he sees it. So, like,
somebody posted a Delaney version. I don't know if you saw that. It was pretty hilarious too.
Someone's gonna have to copy that one and keep it around because it was pretty funny.
All right, Nick. It's been great having you on. Thank you for everything you do. Thanks for passing it forward, all of your knowledge and your patience in particular.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This was fun. I will continue the good work of Discord moderation.
Please do. Please never.
In the time that you've done this, there's been 16 new threads that have opened. So
I gotta go jump over and ban some people now.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.